Hello, everyone. It's a great day. It's Friday. We're all excited. Thanks for giving up your lunch hour. We really appreciate it. We are actually from 4 institutions, and we'll kind of get into introductions here in a second, but we have come together through what has been a grant given to us by the Ascendium Group, and we have been developing what we call high impact pathways between three different community colleges and 1 4-year university. So we are going to move into introductions first, and then we will kind of get into some more stuff. So Mary, would you like to start us off with that?
Hi everyone, I'm Mary Whitt. I'm the coordinator of transfer and articulation at Columbus State Community College in Columbus.
Hi folks, I'm Melanie DeCarlo. I'm the director of articulation and transfer at Eastern Gateway Community College in Eastern Ohio in Steubenville.
Hi everyone, my name is Billie Sirn. I am the University Partnership Coordinator, Transfer Coordinator at the Elyria campus, and we are glad you're all here.
And hi, I'm Jonathan Gates. I am a transfer enrollment specialist at Kent State University.
All right. Hi. Okay, I'm going to start out first, and I'm going to talk about pathways, developing successful pathways for transferring students using the Associate of Arts and Associate of Science degrees. So when I started in this position a few years ago, I know some of the partner institutions were like, why do we need these partnerships exactly? You have the Ohio transfer module, you have these degrees, we'll take these degrees. We really feel like it's important that we develop pathways with these particular degrees and have them documented so that we can give students options for transfer to competitive degree programs and universities so that they can see, you know, this is education at this institution, this is education at the next institution. It was also for financial reasons. In about 2009, we started to focus more on really bringing that idea to the community that using Columbus State as a starting point for their bachelor's degrees and doing these debt-free degrees, start here and finish there, you know, using our lower tuition for the first 2 years and then doing really well and then hopefully getting scholarships and other funding for the next 2 years. And if you didn't get funding, obviously you would only be paying for 2 years at that more increased bachelor's degree price. So that had a lot to do with developing pathways for arts and science. The other reason is for the Ohio Guaranteed Transfer Pathway. If you all are familiar with that, you know, these are things, pathways that are developed through the Ohio Department of Higher Education that all of the community colleges and all of the bachelor's degree institutions in Ohio should be following. And so we developed, you know, these pre-majors or bachelor's degree transfer majors to fit with these Ohio Guaranteed Transfer Pathways. So having these documents and partnerships and everything already in place, that makes it really easy for students to see how the OGTP plugs in to the destination institution. The other thing that developing these sort of pathways do, even if it, again, even if we're using the Ohio transfer module and we're going to another state university and already we're governed by the Ohio articulation and transfer policy, it allows us to give better advising to students on course selection and degree planning. Because when you're thinking about it, a lot of times, you know, students don't know how to put courses together instinctually. You know, they might be looking at a plan of study and just kind of going really linear through it and not really thinking about, I need to be taking this class this semester to sequence properly with future classes. And also there's other things involved with developing these pathways. If we're developing a pathway, for example, into education, students need to know, you know, what are some things that I need to be doing here? Like maybe they need to be doing some volunteer hours with students or, you know, just preparing themselves mentally to be interviewed or something like that, that we can give students information for on these pathways and start working toward that. And obviously, creating a pathway with the arts and sciences degree is a visual representation of the entire degree. Students like to see the whole degree laid out for them. They like to know, it makes them, at least for a lot of the students I advised in the past, it makes them feel more comfortable about their options when they can see that I have this pathway. You know, even though I know I'm taking these classes and even though everybody's saying they're transferable and applicable, this is how they're going to fit later on. This is what it's going to look like for me, and this is what I'm going to do. So, you know, we've developed a number of successful pathways over the years. We've even worked with our partners to develop specific transfer majors for them so that they plug directly into their degree programs. So it's been really interesting to see the journey with that, because at any one time here at Columbus State, we have about 10,000 students who are interested in transfer. And we, every year we transfer over 2,300 students, at least to state universities, and at least that many more to private institutions. So it's a lot to manage. Okay, next slide. Sorry, I forgot I don't have control. Okay, so how do you create arts and sciences pathways? Because it is different. First, you know, you want to look for that articulating program. You know, maybe you've heard from students, you know, for example, data analytics is the big one right now. You know, everybody's talking about big data. So if students are requesting a program, you know, I want to know how I can get a bachelor's degree in data analytics. Does that four-year institution have a program in data analytics? And do we have the coursework necessary to prepare a student to seek that major at that institution? Do we have the general education? Do we have the lower division major requirements and so forth? We're very lucky here at Columbus State. We have over 1,000 courses available in our arts and sciences plan. Well, not in arts and sciences in general. We have a lot of courses that we offer, and especially in arts and sciences, you know, we have something like 30 math courses. So we do have a lot to choose from. So it is easier to articulate, but that is one thing you always want to consider is, do you have the courses that can articulate into that future program? Next is interest. So obviously it's very easy to write pathways in sociology, or at least from my perspective, it is on my end. However, do we have a lot of students interested in sociology? Maybe, maybe not. We have a lot more interested in engineering. So, you know, those are always the pathways we're trying to write, we're trying to develop, trying to get partnerships together with students. And then also on the four-year end, a lot of institutions approach us about creating pathways because they're interested in getting our students in building their programs at their four-year institution. So usually it's interest on both sides, or it's at least interest on the four-year side to develop. Course equivalencies are a big deal, especially with public institutions. Obviously, we have the transfer assurance guides and we have the Ohio transfer module, and we all have to use transferology. So that makes it very easy to develop pathways with our public friends. It's when the private institutions come into play that we require more cooperation, more connection, more kind of trust. You know, I work with a lot of institutions that don't have a published transfer equivalency guide on their website. So it's kind of like all behind the scenes. You know, we send them a list of our courses, we send them our syllabi, and then it comes back and, you know, they say, oh, this isn't equivalent or this isn't, and everything. So it does require more trust and cooperation at that private institution. Faculty and staff involvement are very important. So we are developing a number of pathways with Kent State. And a part of that development is we have a meeting with our faculty and staff from each program and Kent's faculty and staff, which makes it really nice because they can talk about, you know, what they teach in each other's classes and what they're impressed about the programs. And the four-year institution's faculty can talk about their programs to our faculty so that when our faculty are advising their students, they can talk more intelligently about those programs. It's not just like, well, I don't know, we just have a partnership with them, whatever. So it makes it really nice to have that faculty and staff involvement. And also too, because I'm just one person and I don't know a lot about computer science. So when I'm developing pathways for that, it really helps to have the faculty involved from that because they can talk again, they can talk intelligently about their own programs, about their classes, and they can answer those questions that I can't always answer. Documentation is really important because you want to make sure you include those extra details. One thing that I learned very early in my career working with transfer students is that what you see is not always the whole story. So I've made it a point in my transfer work to find the rest of the story. You know, what do students need to do? When is a good time to apply to that program? What are some things, again, like volunteer work or admissions essays or interviews or background checks? What are things that our students might need to know about a lot earlier than when they enroll at that next institution? What is going to help them make an educated decision about their program? So that's really important in these arts and sciences pathways, because it helps for the student to have all the information, because then if they're going to make a different decision, they can, right, on the pathway. So next slide. Okay, so when you're thinking about advising and promoting arts and sciences pathways, so I'll give you an example. When I was working with faculty on, you'll see the Ohio State pathway, it's really about just making it easier for students to understand. You know, a lot of times colleges will have this information on their own website, we'll have it on our website, but bringing them both together and having them, you know, really understand what it looks like and having that knowledge to give to the advisor, and advising from the receiving institution is really important because, like with Jonathan, he'll come and, well, not in person, but virtually, and meet with our students about those Kent State pathways and give the Kent State perspective in the classes and bring them in and start communicating with them earlier and earlier. It's important to put it on the website and have it available for students. You know, a lot of times we have our own sort of documentation, and the receiving institution will have their documentation. What we also think is important is using Columbus State language in our pathways, because students are familiar with that language. They're not as familiar with other colleges' language, and it may be confusing for them to compare. And also it's promotion for future students. I use these a lot when I'm talking to high school students, because high school students a lot of times will be deciding, and maybe they'll be like, I really want to do this, but I don't think it's possible. How is it possible? And using these you know, documented pathways as promotion, and say, hey, you know, it seems like it's really impossible to do this kind of thing, but it's not. Look, you can take all of these classes here. And some of these you can take through College Credit Plus, and you can get your degree done. And then you only have 2 years, and you can still do programs like architecture and engineering and things like that. So the promotion and advising is a big part of it, and really trying to get that information out to students that these are available and that they can use them too as well in their own sort of degree planning and whatever they may need it for. So that's my part on arts and sciences pathways. I'm going to pass it over to Melanie, and she's going to talk more about career and technical. Thanks.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you everybody for having us here today. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about how we looked at the AAS, AAB, ATS pathways with Kent State. So when we began looking at the Ascendium Grant and the partnership, we found that the goals of the Ascendium Grant aligned well with the work we had already begun with the Kent Regionals partnership that we established in 2018. So when we're looking at where to begin with the AAS, AAB, ATS, we wanted to start with the Ascendium Grant. We wanted to start where our students are, which is mainly in those degree pathways. Many times our students enroll in these pathways, they're more career driven, and they don't know that they want to transfer. So it's a little bit more difficult than the AA or AS pathways, which we are already building for transfer, and those are already, you know, earmarked. That's where we want to go. We know we're transfer optional there. The AAS, AAB, and ATS are more likely to be guided pathways, and the gen eds and applied gen eds and technical courses are specifically aligned, and there's not a lot of room for electives all the time. So in my history, on community colleges, with my history, they were referenced more as terminal degrees. We call them career degrees, and we have a little bit more work to do. So as we started working forward with the Ascendium team, we realized we could do the AA well. But when we started looking at our AAS and AAB pathways, getting them to go move on to the university was a little bit more difficult. So we needed to really work hard to ensure that we were hitting the needs of our students as well as the university needs in order to make sure our students were ready and prepared to go right into a relatively seamless pathway at the university. So the Ascendium Grant really helped in opening those doors for our students. So we've learned there are a definite key steps to develop viable transfer pathways for the AAS, AAB, ATS students. So what you want to do is, of course, start where your students are. At EGCC, 75% of our students are enrolled in a program outside of the AAS. In fact, our enrollment rate now is right around about 7,000 students in the AAS, whereas we have, 30,000 some students in all of the career degrees. So knowing your numbers, as I'm getting in there, you need to know your numbers. We have almost 42,000 students in 50 states. In 2019, we had 1,688 graduates. In 2020, we already have 656 with spring alone. So, and when we're looking at that, out of those graduates from spring, 403 out of those 656 were in AAS, AAB, ATS. So we're looking at the quantitative data, but also you need to look at the qualitative data. And by doing that, you need to talk to your advisors. You need to talk to your students, learn what they're talking. You need to talk to your faculty. All of these people are interacting on a daily with your students. They hear the questions and they hear what the students want, what they're looking for. And they're also that segue to get in front of the student, any information that you would want to promote any of the pathways that you're dealing with. So have the students, other things as you want to look at the enrollment and the labor markets, of course, you're looking at the trends and knowing your strengths and weaknesses with regard to your programs and how they transfer forward. And also being able to ask questions. One of the things the Ascendium Grant really did for us was got us at a point where we had our faculty talking to the university faculty. That's a big step for a lot of community college institutions. So would you go on to the next one? So we talk about pre-work. So doing the pre-work is begin by setting up meetings with key staff from both institutions to discuss the proposed pathways. For Eastern Gateway and Kent State Ascendium team, we met with our senior VPs and the deans and me. We started talking about what pathways we wanted to promote, and that's based on our qualitative and quantitative data. And what is the key component to successful articulation? The Ascendium planning team met with EGCC and our deans. We decided why we wanted to pursue certain pathways. We looked at what we wanted, how we wanted to do it, what we wanted to do it, and when we were shooting for. So when we started meeting with our faculty and setting those programs up, first you got out there first and you met with the deans. You talked to the deans. You got the deans to talk to their faculty. You got the deans to be the ones to provide the information to the faculty so that they knew we were all on the same playing field and we were all working towards the same goal, which is transfer opportunities for our students. We made sure that we did the pre-work with regard to getting the grids and the syllabi, the OTM and tag lists, our diversity course lists, things of that nature. We wanted to make sure that we shared those with the university. Additionally, we made sure that when we talked to our faculty, that we were putting out there, hey, go and do some trolling on their website. Find out what their program is. Let's look at it and see that it makes sure that it's a pathway, a viable pathway for our students. So you want to make sure you get the collaboration in there. So, and Kent really, through the Ascendium team and the grant, really opened those doors for us, where perhaps sometimes I'd be knocking on the door and not necessarily getting my foot in there, but that it really provided that opportunity for an open dialogue and communication between our two institutions. Now, when we have these meetings, we want to make sure that we have the faculty talking to each other. It's not just me and the Ascendium team talking. These faculty are talking to each other. They're looking at their coursework. If there was a course that they're like, I'm not quite sure that this is hitting all the LOs, the learning outcomes that we needed or that we're looking for, that's their opportunity to start talking and make sure that they could provide that additional information to either take it over the edge or also, a little introspection on, well, I didn't think maybe I should cover that a little bit more in here. How are you doing it? There's a lot more play in the development or furthering the course dialogue. So as we have these meetings, which of course we had one this morning, what you want to do is you want to leave with as many undone items as possible. You want to have that, let's get our check marks done right then and there in that meeting. Let's knock this off, this off, this off. And then the ones that are out there that you still have left to deal with, have a plan for moving forward. Agree on what the next steps are. Who's doing what? When are we doing it? And then let's plan for the next meeting so that we can get this thing put to bed. Okay. Additionally, you want to make sure that you're communicating. So of course, we're circling back around internally after the meeting. What I do is I go back and I start talking to my faculty. Okay, so how did you feel it went? What did you think was good? What were our strengths? Where do you see some gaps? What are our opportunities to move forward? And is there any assistance that I can provide or I could connect you with to make sure that we're hitting what we need to hit so we're prepped and prepared for the next meeting and or moving it forward? Okay. Additionally, you circle back to the team and say, so what did you think? Did you think this was a good thing? Did you think that we were hitting on all circuits? Do you see any opportunities that we need to maybe improve upon? Or is there additional assistance that you could provide so that we can get where we need to get? The whole goal is just to make sure that we're all on the same page. The goal here is not about taking students from us or, pushing all of our students in one direction. It's about offering viable opportunities in transfer for our students who are in normally terminal or career degrees. Because as I said earlier, one of our key components is that a lot of times when we enroll in the programs, we enroll for one reason. But as we're in there and we're learning and we're developing as a student, we realize there are other opportunities out there. Our goal is to provide those opportunities for our students to push them forward. Next slide, please, Jonathan. So once you get through those two phases, the collaborate and the communicate, now what we want to do is finalize and publicize, like my little rhyme there. What we do as a group, of course, is we develop these one-pagers. Mary talked about it earlier, how you want to make sure you're talking in the language that the students understand. Universities are intimidating, especially if you never really planned or thought you could transfer forward and get a bachelor's degree. It can be very intimidating to an individual. So we want to make sure that we're clear in what we're providing our students. So we've developed these one-pagers, and it's you can see it's clear. It's the Associate of Applied Business to Business Management to the Bachelor of Business Administration and General Studies at Kent State. It gives you the course sequence for the community college. So this is our program pathway right here on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, this is what's going to happen when you go to Kent. Boom. It's right there. It's in the front. And then you have your little asterisks and your little descriptions and references, and you flip it over, and on the back side, it gives you all that information. clarity is the point. You want to make sure that you're clear on what needs to be done. And additionally, on the backside also has contact information for Kent State and contact information for Eastern Gateway. So if someone happens upon this, they can say, I'm really not sure. They know who to contact. Our information is right there. So it's very important to make this as concise and easy for the student to understand in terms that they understand. Then what you want to do is you want to make sure that you share it with everyone. So what we've done is we've made sure that we get it out there. I've instituted the T3 at Eastern Gateway this fall. And what we do is Transfer Tuesdays. Of course, you know, that's pretty much what most people are doing. Maybe I should change it to Thursday now. I don't know. What I do is every third Thursday, T to the third power, third Tuesday, I do an information session, and I either do it on Transfer 101 or explanation of terms, introduce directors to the students, and or I do transfer with the university. So I'll have, you know, anywhere from, you know, 5 to 6 universities. I have them on. They talk to the students about the pathways that they have with Eastern Gateway for the students to, and then they ask questions for the rest of the time. So we have that. We also do our transfer newsletter. So I made sure in September that I got the transfer pathways out there for Kent State so everyone could see, and they were click-throughs on that transfer newsletter. They're click-through. So it took you straight to the Kent site, straight to the one-pager, straight to the Kent site, so you could actually see the student gets the transfer bulletin, you know, they're in the digital image. They go through, they click on it, and it takes them right there. So you're giving them access immediately right there so that they can move forward with it. So after you do these things, you make sure also information sessions are important. So what we want to do is I invite my faculty to also participate in the information sessions that we do on the third Tuesday of the month. I encourage them. I make sure that I send them out information. I record the sessions and I send the recordings out. I also post them on my blog, and I make sure that everybody's aware of it. Now, additionally, you have to have some advising sessions, and that's where we're at the point right now that we're moving forward. Because again, we just announced these pathways in August, July, August. We completed them in the past fiscal year. July, August is when we announced them. So right now we're getting to that point where we definitely need to make sure that all our advisors are on board. And we have advisors in seat and online. So we have a lot of advisors. And so what we need to do and what we're working toward now is scheduling the advising meetings via Zoom because of the COVID and our limitations on in-person and in-seat one-on-one in communications. Is we will record those, and then we're in a position where we can send those out to the enrollment coordinators so that they can share them with their advisors. And it's an opportunity to be housed somewhere in our Eastern Gateway portal for employees. They can click on it, they can learn about the individual pathways, and they can find out what the questions were from the advising staff, which should assist them with their knowledge and how they can also bring that information forward. So that pretty much wraps up my part of the presentation. And now we're going to move on to Billie Sirn.
Thank you, Melanie. And so my part of the presentation is going to touch on the student services around the implementation of the pathways. And so our student services at LCC are definitely built around the same goals as Kent State University. And these goals are to improve transfer. We're trying to build these creative transfer strategies with high impact transfer pathways to Kent State. We want to increase the transfer resources, including advising, of course, completion rates of our transfer students, and increase the number of students transferring. Next slide, please. And so part of that has always been our vision at Lorain County Community College. We have that built into our vision of 2020 and also 2025. We're always looking for ways to improve transfer. And as we're working with Kent State, these transfer pathways are built on the in-demand in the labor market in our community surrounding areas. we want to give our students options with affordable bachelor's degrees at Kent and going on to Kent State. And so it's just embedded in everything that we do at Lorain County Community College to assist our students. Next slide. So we currently have 4 completed pathways with Kent State and are developing 6 more for this current year. The ones that we have right now are in the Health and Human Services, and we are actively emailing students that are taking classes, a couple of classes, or have actually finished their RN. We're targeting those students and giving them the flyers that we've created. We've let them know about transfer scholarships and just educating them about a seamless transfer towards these pathways that will assist them, for that future career position that they're looking for. And so we will be, once we finish these other pathways, we'll again let these students know through email campaigns, through marketing of our TV screens in our institutions that we have in the different buildings, and let our students know about opportunities that that they are maybe didn't think about. Next slide. And so what are our resources? And so we have in enrollment services a great personnel of academic advisors that they are tailored to do the advising, to let students know on that first day. Not only are they asking them, what are their goals, what do they want to do, but they're reminding them about our 4-year options with the university partnership. And so we are giving them, directing them into like a meta major program that will help them ease into and also not lose credits. And it would be more financially affordable for the students to stay in this targeted pathway so that they can go on to the 4-year institution with Kent State and complete a degree without losing time and money. And so LCC, they're wonderful. Our advisors are about connecting to the support services at LCC, but also then once we move them on over to Kent State side, we're also letting them know about all the resources, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So we have our academic advisors at LCC, but we also have the university partnership staff. And right now we have an associate provost, Dr. Brenda Pongratz, and I am in the new position of the transfer coordinator. We have an administrative associate, and we also have a student worker that is an alum. She is a graduate of LCC and currently enrolled in one of our 4-year UP programs. And so that resource for students to come into our office when we were in person is a great way for her to mentor our students that are thinking about going to Kent State, to give her experience and to be that like I said, like a mentor, to kind of guide them and root them on and encourage them to go on to that next step with the bachelor's degree. Next slide, please. And so the transfer coordinator right now, what I am doing is I am promoting the support, the seamless step. I'm a point of contact for all the transfer students. And so we are making sure that they know that they have this one person that's there to assist them each time that they want to call, whether it's in person, through phone, through email. The virtual appointments has actually been a bonus because we can do the sharing of our screen to show them Kent State's website when we're referring them to the Kent State transfer office. We're also able to link them quickly to resources on Kent State's website and help them ward off that transfer shock. They need to know, where is it I'm going on the admissions site, the financial aid, where's accessibility, tutoring, clubs, transfer center, network of peers that have an interest, that they're feeling connected. And so by us being able to share that screen with the virtual appointments, we're making them feel a little bit more comfortable with that transition. I'm reaching out to the Kent State Transfer Advisor and connecting students. So when our students are emailing us to our UP email account, I am able to carbon copy the Transfer Advisor, Transfer Center at Kent State, and connecting them already before they even begin their 4-year. And so it's an easy introduction. It's a way to start the communication. And then the student has that email, that contact, and they can begin discussing it even if they don't need me part of that conversation, they can be discussing it with the transfer advisor at Kent State. I will also assist them with transfer applications. I will help advise on their FAFSA. If the student is not, they're not able to afford the application fee, I'm reminding them if they are Pell eligible, they could submit the NACAC application fee waiver. I will assist them in obtaining their unofficial or official transcripts to get that process going quicker rather than later. If they've got issues with a hold on their account, I'll guide them through our resources at LCC that maybe there would be emergency funding to help them with getting a bill paid or getting something resolved. We also encourage our students to complete that degree, pre-transfer planning. So we have a checklist with the LCC advisors that students can go through if they're thinking about transferring. And so they'll work their way through that list, and I would also reinforce that to make sure that they are doing what they need to do to stay on track and make it a smooth transition. We also have that on our UP website. We have a checklist for students that want to transfer to just reinforce what they need to be doing so they don't feel lost. We also assist students, reminding them about transfer scholarships to Kent State. We also at the University Partnership Office will send out emails to students letting them know that we have donors or foundations, monies that are designated strictly for UP students. So I will definitely let them know of those opportunities to help them with the financial costs that they might have to ease that burden from going to a community college to a 4-year and make it more affordable. My role, day one is reminding our Kent State prospective students that I am not just their liaison, but I'm their cheerleader, their success coach. I'm there for them. And so if they feel that even if they have reached out to someone at Kent State, if they come back to me asking questions, I don't discourage that. I want them to know I'm there. I won't overstep my bounds and do advising on the Kent State side, but I will connect them and make sure that they're not getting the campus runaround, because they need to feel supported, and I want them to know I'm there for them anytime that they need me. So we know this is important, especially, the first-time freshmen at Kent State, they're just as important as a transfer student. And we want to make sure there's a smooth handoff from the 2-year to the 4-year. And we want to remove those barriers and set the students up to succeed. And at LCC, we want to ensure our student services we offer is seamless and give them that first step to that 4-year degree. Next slide. And so at this point, I'm going to hand it off to Jonathan. Thank you.
Thanks, Billie. So that is a good segue. Billie and I talk all of the time. She is obviously on the 2-year side. I'm on the 4-year side. So we have this very unique relationship where, students are getting sent my way. Students are showing interest in these programs, and she's kind of doing her job at the 2-year program while I'm simultaneously doing my job here in my home office, but for the 4-year institution, Kent State. So this is the ideal 3-step kind of process that I would take when trying to work with these students. Of course, we work with transfer students far and wide, and not every transfer student is the same. In a perfect world, they start out at one of our 3 community colleges here, and they follow one of the pathways, and they, finish those 60-ish credits and then move right on to Kent State. And they've been working with Billie, Melanie, or Mary, but we all know that doesn't happen. So again, this is kind of a perfect world, but just as a prelude to that, the very first thing that you can do to really foster these relationships with students is to foster your relationships with these people, with, honestly, your close colleagues at these community colleges, because, I'm pretty sure that my email knows Billie, Melanie, and Mary's emails before they even know the emails of some people in my department. We email all the time, especially now that things are virtual and I can't stop in and say hi or anything. So 3 steps: pre-transfer services, transitional services, and then those onboarding services. To start, we are here with the pre-transfer services. So these are kind of the things that you would want to knock out in that year 1 of a student starting at a community college. So if you can get to them that first semester or 2, this is ideally when you want to knock out some of these things. So you want to be there, and if they need help looking into a transfer program, national statistics suggest that more than 50% of transfer students are 24 and under. So you're getting a very traditional age college student here, and maybe they don't have the life experience to really know what, some of these programs. They might know your traditional kind of occupations like a teacher or a nurse because they've, had interactions with them while growing up, but they might not know of all of the vast things that they could really partake here at Kent State. Especially if you're in an Associate of Arts or an Associate of Science, so you're kind of like more of an exploratory student, as what we may call it at a 4-year. They might just not know where they're going with that. So if you can help them see the end of the road, that kind of fills in the pieces along the way. And one of those pieces is going to be recommending courses to take as part of that associate's degree at the community college. So if that is on one of our pathways, we are able to automatically get them on that so that it's a very clear and concise way to 120-ish credit hours for that bachelor's degree. And one thing that I think that is very important to always include is that regularly checking in is very important, because if you're just one of those, if it's one of those conversations where you give them some information and then you just let them ride for 2 years, some students can do it and they do it really well, but just to make sure that they are staying on that and retaining on that pathway, for it's the affordability piece of it, but also we just want them to get done in that 4 years that they're supposed to get done. The second year would be the transitional services. So they're kind of, they've been on a path, they've been working towards something for that 2 + 2 or that 4-year overall path, but it's time to kind of get on to, thinking about going to Kent State and, just locking it in that is the place that they want to go. So when it comes time to apply, of course, you're there, you're going to help them. If that's just the link to the application, or if they're having problems, just being there to assist them with that. They're going to definitely have questions about scholarships and maybe the different assistance that they could get through FAFSA. The bill at a community college is vastly different than it is at a 4-year university. And even though Kent State is very competitive on that price point of a 4-year university in Ohio, that there's still a gap there. So we offer scholarships and different things to kind of bridge that gap. Also, the amount of money that they're getting through their Stafford loans, other grants and things to the federal government is going to be higher potentially here at the 4-year university. So just being there to kind of being able to tell them about all of that. And then a big thing is that, some part of the traditional college experience is still getting to come down and see campus. So, if your university sponsors visit days for transfer students or includes them in other large events, getting those transfer students down to see the campus could be that final notch in that, the selling of the product that you're trying to do. So with Ascendium, it's really easy to kind of be able to, right now it's all virtual. So it's been very easy to get kind of the things that we're doing out in front of students at Lorain, Columbus, and Eastern Gateway. That's been a struggle. It is a struggle with other community colleges just because those aren't as ironed because of that relationship we have because of the grant. But just keep building that trust and that relationship with those community college partners. And then that 3rd year, or maybe that pre-3rd year, whatever you want to call it, for those onboarding services, this is a very important time to really make sure that transition goes smoothly for that student, because I think Melanie alluded to it earlier, there is a bit of a culture shock for some of these students that, this might have not always been their plan. And this, kind of got thrown on them because it was an equitable pathway and they know it's the best thing for them in their career and their, possible like student debt and things moving forward. So we really don't want them to fall off halfway through this pathway just because they didn't have a positive onboarding experience. So the big thing that, to kind of reiterate that cost of attendance assistance. So me being the transfer enrollment specialist, I have a decent amount of knowledge when it comes to that. But if there is a time where I have to tap out, or if there's going to be more of a personalized look on it, just connecting people with, or connecting your students with the staff at your university that may work with scholarships, or, if it's just your Office of Financial Aid, whatever that may be, that's very important, again, for the difference in that cost of attendance. But a big thing is being that campus liaison. So you are essentially, you've been hyping this up for years, and you kind of need to deliver on, this is what my campus has to offer. This is the quality of the academic program, and you really need to make sure that you've been not like you should be telling the truth the whole time, but just making sure that you're delivering on that. To skip down, providing connections, just kind of go on that thought. That student might really know you at that point. You've been working with them for up to 2 years, and they might feel comfortable talking to you. Maybe they have a question about something that's maybe more program specific, and you might just have to say like, hey, I'm glad you're coming to me. I am not the right person for this question, but this very helpful individual will definitely take care of you. And just being able to be that person that hands them off if they have like a career question, anything really, even if they need certain student services, if they need like connected with your Office of Disability or something of that sort, you're right there. And lastly, and this might not look, this could differ, depending on the institution that you go with. But Kent State, we do offer an orientation program for those students. So really, again, that onboarding program could be virtual, could be maybe in a different time in person, of course, but just ways for those students to, they've been familiar maybe with a lot of these services at the 2-year college, but they might not know where to look at Kent State. They finally got their bearings after, a year or two at the community college. They know exactly where everything is, or they know where to look for it on their student portal or something. Just being able to reiterate that we have those same services. And even at a 4-year, we might even have things that you weren't used to at your community college. So just, again, making sure that you're retaining that student on that pathway, because this can be a big deal for students, especially if this is an in-person progress for them. Online students, it might be a little different just because, it's going to feel roughly not the same, but, different programs and stuff you're going to have to learn on the Kent State side, but, it's your location's not changing. You're, kind of living a relatively similar life. And so aside from the 3-step process, of course, there is different ways to deliver these things. So, and this is really good thing to really keep in mind when you're trying to plan these intentional visits with students, is that, number one, in a normal world, in-person visits are great. Community college hosts fair all the time. If there's a table, advising hours, whatever you can do to get that face-to-face time in front of the students. Students love it when, you're a genuine just person, a one-on-one conversation, and they can really feel if you are doing what's best for them or not. But right now we're doing a lot of virtual things like this. So I think that anytime that you can get face-to-face like this, then of course that is going to be something that is beneficial for the students. So appointments are huge. Transfer students they have very individual circumstances. So you might be talking to a student that's in those first couple of years of college, right out of high school, and that might be more of a traditional student, quote unquote, experience that you're talking about with that student. But we've all talked to students that, have families, have different, priorities in their life. They might be an online student, so they really don't necessarily care that like your campus, has really nice fall foliage or something. But so those different conversations really can be honed in those appointments. So like obviously in-person appointments are great, but right now phone, virtual, anytime that you can get people virtual instead of on the phone is beneficial to them. We know that transfer students make decisions very quickly. So it might be something that a certain student could decide very early on in their college career that like this is the path that they want to go on. And you can follow that 3-step process in that case, but a lot of students are not going to know that at first. They're going to get through a year or even close to 2, and they're going to need a different kind of support. So they are looking for the person that takes their credits or that gets back to them the quickest, that has their program. We always know that transfer students ask, the same 3 questions. Do you have my program? How much is it or how long is it going to take? And do you take my credits? So just being able to answer those questions quickly, because surveys and research suggests that transfer students on average apply to 2 universities. So whatever, makes you seem more appealing. And then lastly, and I think this one's still big, we're in such a world where we're app-driven and things that we kind of lose sight of our websites sometimes, but a website is still where the majority of our students get at least maybe their first information, but at some point in the transfer process, some information. I think we do a really good job at Kent State, so if you want to explore that a little bit, you can just scan the QR code in the corner of the slide. But right off the bat, we have an announcement that just says, this is an important scholarship deadline. We want to be out in the open. We want to be upfront with our students. But even right at the top, you can see all of our degree pathways with all of the community colleges we work with, but notably the 3, especially that we're working through the grant. These are going to get longer and longer as this grant goes on. But even like scholarships, and I like a lot the transfer student application checklist. So say in a different sense, a student doesn't even want to talk to me, they can get all information right from that website, and we work constantly to make sure that that information is as up to date as it possibly can, and when it can look fun as well. That's always a great thing. So that kind of wraps up my portion of the presentation. So I know that we at least want to thank everyone for coming out today, but I'm going to ask everyone to flip their screens back on, and we're going to take some questions in the chat. So if you do have questions, please, keep sending them into the chat. If you don't want it to be a public question, you definitely don't have to put it publicly. You can just send it privately to me. But the first question actually that we got is, it came out during Melanie's section, so I'm actually going to put her on the spot here. So, a lot of what you were saying, Rachel said, it was resonating with the process that they have at UC. And out of her curiosity, do your one-pagers include both equivalencies and applicability? And well, we'll start with that. It's a 2-part question.
Yes, the one-pagers, if you look, I don't know if you could pull up that one slide. It was probably slide 7, Jonathan. Yeah. But if you look at it real quick, you'll see back. Whoop, there you go. See, so if you look and look at the one-pager there, it'll show semester 1 at EGCC, and it'll show the credits, and then it shows how it transfers to KSU. Right there on the left-hand side, you'll see that. So we are purposeful when we're trying to establish these equivalencies and the transparency and clarity, if at all possible.
Okay, and then she is asking if they are screen reader accessible. I'm not 100% sure on what that means, so she'd like to iterate more, but is there a lot of different formats? Is this mobile friendly? Things like that.
Okay, so thank you for catching me and putting me on the spot, because that is one thing that we are definitely trying to work forward, and we have talked about it within the Ascendium team, is with regard to accessibility for all of our students. So we have that as there is a dialogue going on right now about that, to try and figure out how we can best make sure that the articulations and everything are very clear and available for everybody. So thank you. We are working on that.
Perfect. She says thank you in the chat. Thank you, Melanie. Okay. We had just one more question for now, but if you guys do have more questions, please keep putting them in the chat. But this one comes out from actually our GA at Kent State, Jessica. So I am actually probably going to ask this to be a 2-parter, because I am a little bit interested as well, just because I know that Mary and Melanie do at least probably some with this, but maybe something more that's happening at the community colleges. So is there anything that is being done to communicate these transfer strategies or objectives to high school students who may encourage, or to high schools who may encourage students to just get your core courses out of the way at a CC without knowing more about program roadmaps? I butcher that so hard, but just, you know, we have this stigma for so long that, you know, if you're in high school, you go and you do CCP and you knock out as many of these courses, just as like these general courses as you can, English, math, psychology, speech, whatever. Is there anything that your colleges are doing to kind of promote more of these, like, you know, again, these pathways that maybe they can start on if they're sophomore, junior, senior in high school, to kind of knock out a couple of those before they even get to college age?
So let me go quick. I'll be quick first, and Mary can top it off. With mine is, you know, on my little notes here, I'm sorry, I apologize. I did skip that. But one of my comments was you need to talk to the people who talk to the students. So when we did our partnerships and I put these out, I didn't just put them out internally to all EGCC, which include, of course, is our CCP folks, you know, our coordinator and advisors, et cetera. I also sent them to my my high school superintendents. So I did send them across the lines, and I also do tech prep for Eastern Gateway. So of course I have those contacts as well. So of course I did share because, and especially since mine was the AAS, AAB, ATS areas, our career tech folks transfer into those degrees. Coming into Eastern Gateway. So then therefore I also reached out to my tech prep court contacts at my different high schools, et cetera. And then I talked to my workforce board and my with the Chamber of Commerce and my business advisory councils that I sit on within my county as well.
So we have a College Credit Plus advising staff at Columbus State. We have, I think, a little over 6,000 to 7,000 College Credit Plus students here. So obviously a lot of them are looking to get rid of some college coursework. So they do a lot with what we produce as far as pathways. I've met with them before to talk to them about transfer issues, because there are some transfer issues that are unique for College Credit Plus students versus a student that just comes from high school and starts taking classes. So there are a lot of things that students need to know about. One thing we haven't done, but I would like to do, is to reconnect on the Ohio Guaranteed Transfer Pathway. One of the reasons I loved when those started being developed and talking about them, because I thought it was a great way for a high school student to get classes that they needed for a particular degree without making the decision about what college they wanted to go to. So if you had that, you know, ninth grader that was taking college courses, you don't want to put that pressure on a ninth grader to say, I want to go to Otterbein, or I want to go to Harvard, or wherever. I mean, they may say Harvard, but, you know, the likelihood of that happening is rare. So, I mean, this way, they at least have the idea that they can pick from any of the state institutions, knowing a little bit, you know, a little more comfortable with that and doing that. And also it makes it easier for the College Credit Plus advisors, because not only do they have to worry about everything that's going on with their high schools and the high school programs and everything, but then, you know, it's not so much pressure trying to learn all of the different institutions as well. So I think utilizing the state programs is really helpful in everything with that. But we do try and keep the College Credit Plus staff updated on things that happen in transfer world. It's just difficult because there is a divide when it comes to admissions between a student that has earned all their credit in high school versus a student that has earned the majority of their credit outside of high school. So that's where we're at.
Billie, are you guys doing anything at LCCC when it comes to that?
Yes, we shared also the flyers and information first week of classes, but our CCP advisors were sharing that. We also emailed it to our LCC advisor manager. He disseminated that out to our learning centers, as I said, the advisors to talk to their students, the CCP advisors. So that did get out into the high schools to let them know about these pathways. So we were trying to blanket everyone that we could think of so that students are aware early on about these great options.
That's great, thank you. And I know that Billie's actually working as well to see, you know, where the four of us can even make some headway in getting connected with high school counselors and just high school students that are close by, at least high school students, at least in Ohio. So that is it for questions, and we're right at 1 o'clock. So I am going to actually, we're going to be good here. But I wanted to thank everyone for coming out and listening to us talk about how we're developing these high impact pathways. We're going to have more information soon, when we get towards the end of this grant about how maybe our, the successes and maybe the not so great things that we're trying through this grant and trying to see what really sticks with our transfer students. So be on the lookout for that. But thank you for coming. Have a great weekend.